I appreciate you being here for yet another Todd Talk. We take teaching theory and turn it into teaching practice. When it comes to public speaking, there are times where you will need to try to persuade an audience. Your best tools for doing so are what are known as logos, pathos, and ethos. So let me explain what each of these is and then how these three work together. So the first I'm going to talk about is the idea of logos. Logos is appealing to the brain of an audience. So you do this through logic. That's what logos stands for, is logic. So you use logic, you use common sense arguments. You may use research to back up what you're saying as well. But when you're trying to convince someone with logos to persuade them, you are trying to appeal to their brain. You're trying to make them think this is what it would be like. This is what it, so you're getting them to think. And so getting them to think is really important because if you can make sense and they're like, oh, that makes sense. I agree with that. I can see what they're saying. And so that's kind of the aha moment when it comes to that. You know, you've got them when you've got them saying to themselves, okay, that makes sense. So logos is looking at the brain and trying to appeal to that. There are various ways to do that. I've shared some before, like just making logical sense. When you make an argument, it needs to follow a certain logic, and you can compare it to something and compare it to something else, and that seems to make sense. You can use the logic of other people or the evidence from other research or the evidence of other experiences to also appeal to people's brains. But logos is definitely trying to get people to think. So the second of these is what is known as pathos. Pathos is appealing to the heart. So this is trying to get your audience to feel something, to try to get them emotionally involved in what you're talking about. The reason why you want to appeal to someone's heart is because people may say, oh, that makes sense to my head, but I don't feel it. And so you want to try to help them to gain empathy for the situation that you're talking about, for to persuade them with their emotions rather than just with their brain. So the way that pathos works is you want to tell personal stories. Is one tool that you can use, and personal stories uh, have a good way of really sinking in and getting to the heart of people. You can use visuals that are trying to help them to see how someone might be feeling when it comes to this particular topic that you're talking about. So, when it comes to pathos, there is a bit of manipulation going on, which you're trying to get them to feel a certain way. And by feeling this way, then they will better understand your argument. They will be more likely to be persuaded. And again, the aha moment here is when someone says, oh, okay, I feel that. It feels right. Or it doesn't feel right. So that's the aha moment when it comes to uh, pathos is you want people to be feeling with their heart. The last of these is the idea of ethos. And ethos is appealing to the soul of somebody. And it basically comes down to this: are you someone who is to be believed? Are you someone that we should listen to on this topic and hear what you have to say? We establish this ethos in various ways. So one might be our credibility. So what are our credentials? Are we a doctor? Are we a lawyer? Are we a teacher? You know, if we're talking about certain things, do we have an expertise in those things because we work in those things? It also could be experiences that you have. So if you're talking about travel overseas and you've never traveled overseas, it's going to be really difficult to really buy into what you're saying because what would you know? You've not experienced that. But if you have a lot of experience, then we can simply say, oh, okay, this person has a lot of experience. There's someone that should be listened to. So if you're trying to convince people about playing the piano and you say, "Hey, I've been playing the piano for 20 years." It's like, "Wow, this person has a knowledge. They're someone that is to be believed." The aha moment for this is when someone says, I love this person. I believe this person. I believe in them. It's the aha moment. So you feel that with your kind of your soul, this belief. And it's really important to be believed, because otherwise people, you can appeal to the head all you want, you can appeal to the heart all you want, but if people don't believe you, then you're not going to appeal to anyone. Now, what you want to do is you want to use a combination of these three tools, the ethos, pathos, and logos, in any speech that you give. And you can see here the triangle is fairly equal in its use. But in reality, when it comes to a speech, you might have to vary the balance. In other words, you might have to give more ethos than pathos or logos. You might have to really, if you have a very scientific thing that you're trying to persuade people of, you may have to really appeal to the logos of people and their common sense and the evidence that you have. If you're trying to get someone to feel something, you're trying to get someone to sympathize and be on your side because of that sympathy, you're definitely going to have to attack the pathos a lot more. So your triangles will look more like this, depending on how you are setting up your argument and which of these three is best going to persuade your audience. So you have to kind of establish that is like, what is best going to persuade them? Is it going to be their head? Is it going to be their heart? Is it going to be their soul? And you have to decide what that is. And then if you think it's going to be the heart, then you need to pour on the pathos. You need to make sure you have lots of personal stories, lots of images, lots of whatever to help them to feel what it is. But if you decide like, oh, this is a really common sense argument that I just need to convince people of, then you're going to appeal to their brains. You're going to go to the logos. So you have to decide as the speaker how you're going to use these tools, how you're going to balance these tools out. But just know almost never will it be perfectly balanced. And also almost never will you not use all three of these. You'll use all three of these in some form or another. One might be more focused on than another, but all three should be utilized if you are going to persuade someone to be convinced by your argument.